나처럼 groovy하게 나처럼 groovy하게.
Unless you're new to my channel, you probably know that most SM groups are on my stan list, so I figured I had enough to talk about to make a separate 2021 prediction video for it. This list is only going to include technically active groups and soloists under those groups. Let me know some of your predictions in the comments below, and let me know some non-SM groups you'd like me to see make predictions for in my next video. Starting things off with aespa, they'll probably be pushed into the spotlight a lot more in 2021 as SM's newest rookies. I'm predicting 2 to 3 Korean comebacks, with at least a mini album and possibly a full-length album. I feel like towards the end of the year they're going to release a breakout hit, one which solidifies them as a top rookie group in Korea. I also believe the rumors about additions to aespa's lineup. I could definitely see it becoming a 7-member group. I think they'll only have one lineup change though, not an unlimited member concept. Moving on to EXO, I low-key feel like we might get a comeback or some sort of new subunit, despite all of these impending enlistments. The reason why I feel like this is because of the symbols at the end of Kai's music video. I don't think both Xiumin and Dio will have solo debuts, so I think it might be some sort of hint at a group project. I don't think SM will want to wait the entire period of EXO's enlistments with no comebacks, considering how profitable they are, and also considering Super Junior had regular comebacks during their enlistments. I also feel like Baekhyun is going to enlist sometime during the middle of the year, and it's possible that Chanyeol might enlist before the end of the year. If he doesn't, then he'll probably enlist sometime in the first half of 2022. In terms of solo activities, Baekhyun, Kai, and Lay will definitely have solo comebacks. I think Baekhyun will release his first full-length solo album, which will drop right before his enlistment. Kai will probably have one comeback, possibly a full-length album. I think Lay will have 2 comebacks, maybe a single and a mini album. I'm not anticipating any new solo debuts, but if a member does have one, I think it would be Xiumin. Dio is probably going to focus on acting. I think he's already committed to a project, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's cast in more dramas upon his return. EXO SC will probably have one comeback, maybe with a full-length album. Okay, so none of the members of FX are even under SM at this point. I wonder if this will prompt SM to officially announce disbandment news, but knowing their history, they probably won't. I'm hoping Luna has a comeback with at least a single. I think Victoria and Crystal will mostly focus on acting, but Victoria might drop more music in China. I think Amber is going to continue promoting in the US and possibly release some singles or an EP, and unfortunately, I think an FX reunion is highly unlikely. So SM CEO stated that there would be a huge NCT subunit debuting next year, and revealed plans for expansion into Japan, Southeast Asia, America, Europe, Australia, and Africa. In my predictions for 2020, I shared that an NCT Japan unit seemed likely, considering how lucrative the music industry is there. The Japanese members of NCT will definitely be part of it, plus 1 to 2 more existing members of NCT, along with 3 to 4 new trainees. I think at least half the members will end up being Japanese. As for the existing units, here are my predictions. I think 127 is going to have a Japanese comeback before the new subunit debuts, and will have 1 Korean comeback, both with mini albums. I think 127 will mostly focus on international touring and Western promotion, especially in the second half of the year. I feel like this just might be the year we get a full-length Dream album. If not, they'll release a mini album, but regardless of the type, I think they'll only have 1 comeback this year. I don't think NCT U is going to have a full-fledged comeback this year. I feel like SM is mostly going to use some for the NCT yearbook projects from now on, and given the fact that 2020 happened so late in the year, and they're debuting a new subunit, I highly doubt we're going to get an NCT 2021. If NCT U releases anything, it might be an SM Station single. I think WayV will have at least 2 comebacks this year, both with mini albums. I also low-key think another member or 2 might be added to WayV's lineup, but I'm not super confident about that. Okay, so I'm torn between being optimistic and realistic when it comes to Red Velvet's future. Historically, SM doesn't have the greatest track record when it comes to girl groups, especially once they've hit the 7-year mark. However, I would like to think that the reason why Red Velvet didn't have a comeback this year was because they wanted to wait for Wendy to fully recover. I'm guessing Red Velvet will have a Japanese comeback sometime at the beginning of 2021, and will have a Korean comeback with a mini album sometime around their 7-year anniversary. I believe all of Red Velvet's members will be able to renegotiate contracts at this point, but I think all of them will end up re-signing with SM. I'm hoping Red Velvet have the opportunity to tour internationally by the end of the year, but I unfortunately don't think it's going to happen as SM shifts focus to NCT and aespa. I think Silge and Irene might have a subunit comeback with another mini album in the earlier part of the year as well. I don't think any members will have a solo debut, but everyone will receive opportunities for collabs and variety shows.
SHINee's back.
I think it's pretty safe to expect a full-length album, possibly in the middle or later part of the year. Taemin will probably have 2 to 3 solo comebacks, 1 Japanese album, and 1 to 2 Korean mini albums. I also think Key will have a solo comeback with a full-length album, plus possibly a repackage. I don't think Onyu or Minho will release solo music this year, but both will probably get acting opportunities. So I've been waiting for an OGG comeback for over 2 years at this point, but there has been no sign of one despite the success of the subunit, so I'm not going to hold my breath for a 2021 comeback. I'm guessing Taeyeon will have 2 comebacks, one being a full-length Japanese album and the other being a Korean mini album. I also think she'll have a solo tour in Asia during the second half of the year. Hyoyeon will probably release 2 to 3 new singles next year, but I doubt we'll get an album. Yoona will definitely star in a couple of dramas, and maybe release a special single, probably an SM station. I think Yuri and Sunny are only going to make variety show appearances and possibly drama appearances. Sooyoung and Sohyun will focus on acting, and Jessica will focus on her business. The only other member I'm anticipating music from is Tiffany. She'll probably drop her first full-length English album, and possibly go on tour towards the end of the year in the US. Considering the fact that they're about to have a huge comeback for their 15-year anniversary, I think they'll lay low for the most part in 2021. I still think a full album is possible towards the very end of the year. I don't think any members will have a solo debut, but I think each of their active subunits will have a comeback. I also think at least 1 to 2 members will get involved in dating news, but it won't be a huge scandal.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not too sure what the fate of SuperM is in the face of Baekhyun's enlistment. I definitely think they will release at least a new mini album before he enlists, but I don't know if they'll continue the group without him, or replace him, or even abandon the idea altogether. If I had to guess, I'd say they will continue with the original lineup for the remainder of the year, and possibly have one comeback accompanied with a mini album without Baekhyun. I think if they stay together, they'll go on tour in the US by the end of the year. I think a Japanese comeback is expected for TVXQ, and I'm hoping that full album, which was supposed to come out this year, gets released next year. I'm guessing Changmin's marriage was the reason why it was delayed, but hopefully delusional fans don't ruin anything. I also think Yoona might have a solo comeback with another mini album. That is it for my predictions. Do you agree with my thoughts? Let me know in the comments. And again, let me know some groups you would like to be featured in my next video.